You're listening to Brandon Sports Talk, interviewing professional athletes and Paralympians and Olympians. And now for your professional athlete interview and your host, Brandon P.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege of interviewing the USA wrestling Olympian Dennis Hall. How are you doing today?
Doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you. Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to compete in professional wrestling?
Well, ever since I was a little kid, you saw WWE on TV, and I didn't, I didn't like that. But then, as a kid, I watched the Olympics every year, uh, every time they were on, and I'd watch the wrestling. And when I was in first grade, my first grade teacher came around the room first week of school, and she goes, "What do you guys want to do when you get older?" Everybody, a lot of kids said police officer, like their parents or teachers or doctors or professional athletes. I said, I want to be an Olympic wrestler. She looks at me, she pats me on the back, and she goes, "That's a good dream." Well, when I made my first Olympic team, we did a fundraiser, and she came and told that story. So that was cool.
Of course, what was that experience like getting involved in the US wrestling and becoming a part of the national team?
You know, it's hard because as an amateur athlete, you know, which they consider all Olympians amateur athletes, there's really not a lot of pay. So you got to figure out how to hodgepodge your, income together where you can train full time and also, be able to survive financially. So a lot of the guys now with social media, they're able to get sponsorships a little bit easier than back in the day when I competed because we didn't really have social media.
What is it like being a Greek Roman wrestler?
A lot of it's just, it's wrestling. I just got good at throwing people and you know, battling as hard as I could for whatever the length of the match is. Sometimes it was 5 minutes, sometimes it's six, and if it's overtime, it's nine. I had a crazy match in the 2004 Olympic trials against Brandon Paulson, a teammate of mine in '96, and then we both ended up at the same weight class because they took away a weight class, and we ended up going 16 minutes and 54 seconds. So you just never know, but it was quite the experience.
Of course, during your time, what was it like getting to compete in 10 world championships?
It was awesome. I mean, you go over the world championships. I was able to earn three medals. I won a bronze medal in Tampere, Finland, world championship in Prague, Czechoslovakia, and then an Olympic silver in Atlanta. But even the other seven where I didn't medal, I placed in a lot of them. But for me, it was about seeing other cultures and being able to experience, you know, um, some of their history that they have in their places. I'd walk into the restroom. A lot of those countries had kids practices going on in the same buildings that the Olympians are training in. So that was cool and kind of helped me build that mentality wherever I go. In Stevens Point, I had kids club, and then I guys would go back to college. They'd come back from college and come into the room with the little kids. And I had a guy make an Olympic team in 2012 and 2016 from my kids club. He'd come back and give back to the athletes. So that was neat.
Of course, in 1995, what was that experience like competing in the World Championships and the Pan American Games in Atlanta?
Uh, it was awesome. I'll tell you, there's no better place to wrestle in an Olympic Games than your home country because you got big crowd support. The crowd was incredible. I remember going out there and the crowd just going crazy. And, I had a tough match first round. I had the guy that was picked to take second. in uh, sorry, I'm talking about the Olympics, but in '95, first round of World Championships, I had Alexander Tanko from Russia. He had taken second in the World Championships the year before. I ended up beating him in overtime. My second match was against a Swede who cut a weight class to get down to my weight class, and I beat him by a point. My third match, I was losing to a German who was a two-time world champ and Olympic silver medalist, losing to him 3-1, I think, with about 20 seconds left. And I believed in myself. I looked out. I got to tell a story if you don't mind.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wrestling this guy, make a mistake early in a match. He's up 3-1, and with 20 seconds left, I have a standing front headlock on my opponent, and he steps out of bounds, so I couldn't throw him. And he ends up taking a timeout. I look over to my coaches in my corner, and they got their head down like this, like the match is over. Next, I look up to the crowd where my teammates and my ex-wife were standing, and I look up there just to see if anybody sees anything I can do, and everybody's kind of puts their head down. And I'm like, I didn't hear the clock run out. So I quick came up with the game plan. I'm going to go straight for his body off the whistle. And if I don't score there, I'm going to find a way to score. And that's exactly what I did. I changed my level. I attacked at my opponent at the hips, took him straight to his back and got a fall. So then that put me in a match against Agassi Manoukian in the semifinals from Armenia. Agassi was world champion. I had wrestled him before. It felt like he was almost going to break my rib in a reverse lift position. So I hopped up. He throws me for 5 in that previous match. And then he lifts me again, gets me up again. He ended up beating me 7-5 in that match. So I knew it was going to be a dogfight, but I figured out how to defend his reverse lift. And after in Greco, if they think one guy's stalling right away, they'll put him down. They put me down. I defended his reverse lift. As soon as I got up, he gets up, his head starts dragging. And then I end up beating him 8-0 after that. So that put me in the world finals against Yuri Melnichenko from Kazakhstan, who was a world champ from the year before. And Yuri and I had wrestled at the Espoir World Championships, I think in '91, and he tacked me in a minute 30. Well, I had brought over guys that lifted exactly like him to teach me how to defend it. He was Bulgarian, Stefan Ivanov. And I brought him over and it worked because I didn't get lifted and killed. I ended up beating him 2-2 on referees' criteria to become the U.S.'s second world champion in Greco-Roman wrestling. So it was exciting. It was neat because after the tournament, we went out, celebrated a little bit, but people on the street knew who I was because it was televised. It was kind of cool.
What was that feeling like making your first Olympic team?
Dream come true, and it was a struggle. And a lot of people don't know this, but in 1992, we didn't have the weight qualified for the Olympic Games, and USA Wrestling put another man's name in that would be competing in the Olympic Games. And I told him, I said, it's wrong. I go, you guys got to have a special wrestle off because I plan on winning. And they're like, no, we're going to do it this way. Well, I went to the wrestle off. I beat Frank Famiano, who great wrestler. He's 5th in LA Olympics, but I beat him 2 matches straight. And they tell me after I beat him, oh, you'll get the Olympic gear. You'll get to go over and watch the Olympics, but Frank's going to compete. That didn't sit well with me. So I called the lawyer on Monday after the trials, and the lawyer said, hey, if they don't change it, we got a case. And needless to say, USA Wrestling changed the name on the petition to be able to wrestle in the Olympics. They put my name on it. And then we ended up getting a wild card. And I competed, and it was an eye opener because you get to go to the opening ceremonies. You're standing on the field with all the best athletes throughout the entire world, and I didn't get nervous until they lit the torch. Once they lit the torch, and I'm like, holy cow, I'm at the Olympics. So it was neat.
Of course, what was that feeling like when you first stepped into the ring and the mat for the first time at the Olympics?
A little nerve wracking, but once you shake hands and you know, you get the rep blows the whistle, and hey, you better be focused. So, because that guy's coming to beat you. So, um, you know, it was a kind of dream come true moment for me because that's what I've been shooting for since I was 4 years old.
After your first Olympics, what was that like in getting to train and compete for your next Olympics?
There was a turning point in my career in 1993. I had just got done with the World Championships, and my father-in-law and I were going up to northern Wisconsin to look at some land for. He wanted to buy some land on the river, and he goes, Dennis. He goes, how do you support your or my daughter, your wife? He asked that question. I said, I wrestle, it. I said, I don't make a ton, but I do what I can. He goes, is there any chance you can make more money through wrestling by doing better? I said, yeah, if you win a medal, if you win the gold, you get 15,000. If you win a silver, you get 10, or bronze is 5,000, you know. He goes, what do you have to do in your training to get to that level? He goes, where can you get better? And then I started analyzing, and instead of doing 2 workouts a day, I amped it up to about 4 workouts per day. And that was a turning point. Just that simple little conversation that questioned me.
Of course, what was that feeling like getting to compete on home soil in your first Olympics?
It was wild. I mean, I remember warming up in a back room in a Congress Center, and I'm warming up, and my partner did an arm drag on me, and I felt something. And what happened is when he did that arm drag, my vertebrae in my back popped out of place. So I was stiff going out. Right after that, I quit warming up and I went out. I jumped some rope, but I didn't do any more drilling. I went out there, and once I shook hands with the guy from Turkey who was picked to take second, we were matched up first round. I was picked to win it. He was picked to take second. I just wore him down because of the crowd. The crowd was so loud. Um, it it gave me the energy to push through it and not break mentally.
Of course, what was that experience like competing in your second Olympics and getting to win a bronze medal?
It was awesome. I ended up winning the silver in that Olympics, but it like I said, the first place guy and the third place guy is always the happy guys. The second place guy, not too happy. I appreciated what I did, but I hated the result, and I'm just being honest with you. I It was frustrating, and that's why I chased the Olympic gold medal for 8 more years. And even though I didn't get it, I learned a lot during those 8 years.
Of course, during those 8 years, what were some of the things that you learned to then help you to make that third Olympics?
You gotta be mentally resilient, because in 2004 I'm wrestling against Brandon Paulson in the Olympic trials, and it's best of 3 series. I win the first match. He headlocks me the second match, and my neck locked up. I couldn't turn it. I could only do to about here and here. And right after my second match, I got to come back 30 minutes later and wrestle a third match. And so I go up, I find my brother-in-law in the stands. He's a chiropractor. First, I went to trainer, Chad Schmidt, and I had him work on my neck, and I still couldn't. It was locked up so bad. And then I quick ran up to get my brother-in-law, and I said, Dave, follow me down to the training room. I don't want anybody knowing my neck's hurt this bad. So he's like, can I get down there? I said, they ain't going to stop you with me. If they do, I'm going to beat somebody. So he followed me down to the training room. We got on the table. He adjusted me, and I got full range of motion. And at that point, I'm like, he's going to have to kill me if he wants to make the Olympic team. And that was my mentality. And then we went. It was 3-3 going in, or 3-3 after our first 3 minutes of overtime. At the 9-minute mark, it was 3-3, and the head referee comes out. He goes, all criteria is the same. Well, I got a story about that in about 2 minutes. So as he tells us, he goes, I don't want to decide the match. He goes, one of you guys are going to have to score a point. So immediately at that moment, I said, okay, I'm ready to go an hour. I put an hour on my mental clock, and if that's what it takes me, that's what I'm willing to do to make that team. Well, at 16 minutes, 54 seconds, I ended up scoring the winning takedown. And, but it's just being able to focus and think about the task at hand instead of, I don't want to lose. No, I want to win. So you got to stay positive. But quick story about that match, that third match, all the criteria wasn't the same. I had a 3-point takedown. He had a 2-point and a 1-point. The highest takedown or the highest scoring move has criteria. So I had criteria, and they told me I didn't. And I talked to him about it. I didn't realize it till about 2016 that we never should have went overtime.
Of course, for you, what does it mean to be an Olympian and have OLY behind your last name?
It means a lot because it's a pinnacle of the sport. It's what everybody shoots to that wants to wrestle professionally, because it's kind of professional, but it's not. It's still amateur. But to be able to wear the Olympic rings, be able to have an Olympic jacket, just realize, hey, I was one of the best in the world at one point in my career. And that's what motivates me as a coach is, I don't want to put any limitations on any of my athletes. I want to help them become the best version of themselves as wrestlers.
Of course, for you, as you talked about wearing that Olympic jacket, what was that feeling like when you did put on that Olympic jacket?
Yeah, you wanted to represent the United States as good as you can, and you wanted to perform at your best level, because people, a lot of people don't get the chance to wear it. So for me, it was about going out there and wrestling as hard as I can, win, lose, or draw, just give my best performance. Because I think that's kind of what the Olympics is about going out there and trying your hardest. And you know what? There were one time where I ended up with the medal, two other times I didn't. But you know what? I went out and I competed the best I could at that point in my career.
For you, what was that Mama I Made It moment like for you at the Olympics?
What was what moment?
The Mama I Made It moment.
Once it was my first Olympic Games. When I was on the Olympic field, I was talking to John Smith during the opening ceremonies. John Smith is a 2-time Olympic champ, 4-time world champ. And I'm talking to him. He goes, Dennis, are you nervous? I'm like, hell, John knows my name. I thought that was cool because he was a hero, And we just talked for a little bit. He goes, Dennis, are you nervous? He goes, no. I said, no, I'm not, because I wasn't at that point. And John goes, you get nervous. He goes, just be ready for it. And that night I got nervous when they lit the torch, and the whole crowd erupted. And then I'm like, my aha moment was that night when the guy lit the torch. It was unbelievable electricity in the crowd.
Of course, for you, what was that feeling like getting to put on the Olympic rings and knowing that all of your hard work paid off?
You know, it it was really neat. You know, each Olympian they get an Olympic ring to put on their hand, and I'm lucky enough where I got three of them. But put on that ring, I wear it when I do speaking a lot. I show all my athletes, what I've done, just to say, hey, why not you? I'm a person that comes from a small town. Family of 8. My mom and dad weren't rich, but look what I did. You can do the same thing if you decide you want to.
Of course, for you, what was that feeling like getting inducted into the U.S. Wrestling Hall of Fame?
It was a great night. At first when I got inducted, I didn't. It was cool. I thought it was cool, but I didn't realize it till I went to Stillwater, Oklahoma, and went to the Hall of Fame, and walked and did a tour and saw all the guys before me that were animals. And hey, I'm going to be in here for till they tear it down or move. It was neat realizing that I had achieved enough in my career to think that I was worthy to be in there.
Of course, what are some of your favorite memories and moments throughout the Olympic time?
I think the best moments I have are my training partners. I brought a lot of guys over from overseas. I brought Ivan Ivanov. He's a successful businessman now here in the United States. He was from Bulgaria. Um, I brought over Igor Petrenka, who was the head coach in Belarus. Then he coached over in Serbia. I brought over Mario Oliveras from Cuba. Uh, he was the head coach of Italy for a while. I brought over Emil Budnov. Right now, he's second in charge in Bulgaria for Greco. So just having those relationships, and a lot of them were training at the same time as me, or I brought them over to help me out and just kind of pick their brain because most of those guys won world medals. So it was the friendship I got from them. I always cried when they left because you know what, I know they gave up probably 3 months of their life to help me get better, and I just, a lot of them were from poor countries, so they didn't have a lot. So we try and help them out and give them gifts to take back to their family for appreciation.
What is it like getting to meet your fans and having them ask for your autographs and photos with you?
You know, it's neat. It's a cool thing to be able to sign your name for somebody. That's kind of badge of respect and honor. But at the same time, I tell the kids, I said, you guys can be me if you just believe. You got to believe, and you got to be willing to do the work.
For you, what was that transition like going from being an Olympian and competing to getting into coaching?
A lot of it is, trying to help these guys with their mental mindset, because so much of coaching is mental. And I know that just because I worked with a sports psychologist. I use BZ Hendricks was my sports psychologist that I worked with. He's dead now, he passed away a while ago. But he helped me. Without him, there's no way I would have won the medals, because he had my mind so clear and purpose driven. And that's what I try to do for my athletes, just help them realize, hey, you know what, the sport's simple. We got to simplify the sport. Don't think you have to know 500 moves. Learn 3 to 5 moves and perfect them and become excellent at them. That's the way you become great.
Of course, what advice would you give those future athletes out there that are looking to go to the Olympics and compete for US or Canada?
Take a lot of losses. You take losses, you learn from those losses. You don't, if you're winning every competition, you need tougher competition. So I think a lot of people worry about winning and losing. I worry about going out there. When I was competing, when I got good and was smart, I worried about going out and just competing a second at a time. I had one coach in 1992. I'm at the Olympic training camp, in Lake Placid, New York, and I'm getting turned in practice, and the coach grabs me after practice. He was a Russian, Anatoly Petrosian, and he goes, Dennis, he goes, your parterre's no good, your defense no good. I'm like, okay, thanks. He goes, 10 minutes. So after about a half hour of three guys rotating in on me after a full practice already, I finally look at him. I said, when the hell are you going to start teaching me? He goes, oh, now you're ready. He goes, Dennis, he goes, the secret to winning is 1 second. He goes, you have to have stronger position than your opponent for one more second. Make them quit first. And once I started to take on that 1 second mentality, things changed.
What advice do you have those Olympians looking to compete in multiple Olympics like you have?
Just make sure you're in a good training situation that feels like home, and where you're getting better. I think a lot of guys that wrestle, end up, trying to find a better place all the time. If the place is working and they helped you get there, trust the coaching process a little bit more too. The thing is, I was up in Wisconsin, in the middle of Wisconsin training at a D3 college, and I made 3 Olympic teams. Is it the coaching? I was running my own practices until I brought my partners over to help train with me. So a lot of it, I think, is, figure out your weaknesses, attack your weaknesses, and make sure you're comfortable.
What advice would you give those Olympians transitioning from being athletes in the sport to life after the sport?
Number one is, maybe get a degree or find a skill set that you can make a living with, because there's not much on transition of athletes to whatever they want to do after. That's where in the United States we don't do a great job with our athletes. We send them out to the real world, and we don't learn how to use what you learned from the sport and apply it to other areas of your life, and you're going to be just fine.
That's great advice. Thank you again, Dennis Hall, for your interview, and best of luck in your future as you begin this new journey.
Thank you. Appreciate the time today.
Thank you. You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Dennis Hall, for your interview, and best of luck in your future.
Thanks. Same to you. Bye-bye.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.